blinded by the lights. We came to shine here. Watch it look daytime in the night. We bring the vibes here. We full of life, you keep the change. Keep the change.
Alright, good morning guys. It is the day of the premiere. So the time is what, 8:35. Liz text us telling us to get ready for breakfast. Usually we get up extremely early, so 9 o'clock is pretty late for us. It's because Billy and Liz had a super late flight last night. It was really crazy. We're here in Houston, so if you don't know, it's a lot of the water damage, a lot of the hurricane stuff that was happening going on here. So last night when they landed, it was like a pileup of airplanes. I think she said it was like 40 airplanes in front of her. It was crazy, but they got in late, so we woke up late. Thank God, yeah, because they be getting up super early. Now, who at this door early in the morning? Ooh, look who came to visit us.
Have you heard about the second coming of Jesus Christ?
Damn.
What's going on, man?
Yeah. Give me my hug. Hi.
I'll take something on it. What time is it like?
You're doing a run day.
Nothing.
It's like when I see it. You like, so I got the late last night. Crazy.
So, AJ, out of all the cameras you chose to shoot with, why Canon over Sony?
Well, Sony is good overall for video, and they give like all their cameras all the features, with Canon like to hold their cameras back. So like Apple, but Canon color science is unmatched. Like how they come out of the camera is good. They autofocus is better than everybody's, and then it's just a preference of like lens choice. When you first start, like if you invest in your lenses, like you're not going nowhere because like this lens like probably like 3700. So if I buy a new camera, these lenses don't go out of style. The cameras always get upgraded. So once you got invest in your lenses, you're gonna stay with that company because you can always upgrade lenses. So you can't really interchange Canon, Sony, and Nikon and stuff like that. So there'll be a choice, stick with it.
There's I have a lot of photos of random places I've been where the lights start flashing like this. Even street lights.
Wow. Liz don't like them. Liz don't flashing lights.
What's the name of that movie we just watched, Liz? Divergent. We get a Divergent series.
Get it, Liz.
We headed to the what's the name of that thing? Dauntless. We had to go see the Dauntless people in this damn elevator. Hey, what's up? Well, how y'all doing?
Hi.
Hello, madam.
Nice to meet
You're a
you.
social lady.
Yes, I am. You the social man. I see. Y'all look nice.
Is that what you want me to be? I can.
Hey, look.
Thank you for a pretty lady.
Oh, thank you. My husband thinks the same.
Hey.
Y'all look nice.
Yo, where you get your height from? My son? Yeah, my mama said, where'd you come from? Her dad got killed when she was 10, but my grandfather was 6'5".
What are you?
He was the tallest that I knew of.
Yes.
Because my dad's only 5'2".
Yeah.
You're about I'm in between. Yeah, but that was like 5'9". Yeah.
So, come on, see?
Oh, you see? But he's so short. You good? You not too short.
Not that 5'9". Somebody making it to the NBA.
Hey.
Sure.
Like, you gotta go in. You see there's an entrance on this other side.
Austin, what's going on, man? Hey. All right, brother. How you doing?
Carson.
What's up, man? How you doing? All right.
All right, guys. Very good.
Yo, my name is Austin Alchemy. What brought me out here is I am a seeker of truth. I've been studying the Anunnaki for years now, since I was 17, basically half my life. I started following Billy about 10 years ago, and we ended up working together, making music, and the next thing you know, I won the Rolls Royce raffle, so, you know, there's that connection, and yeah, man, it's just a blessing and absolutely grateful to be out here.
Hello, and wow, we are finally here at the premiere of the Anunnaki here in Houston, Texas. We've been waiting a long time for a brother like Billy and a lady like Elisabeth to help raise the level of awareness around the world, actually around the universe. And we are glad to be part of it as we help raise the level of awareness. Also, my name is Alto. I'm actually from Houston, Texas at the moment. This is my sweetie right here, Miss Nicolette Ferguson. We have a couple of businesses together, and this level of awareness that is being raised that really helps our business at the same time. Everybody should see the documentary.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Josh Russell from Denver, Colorado. What brought me to Billy was his unquenchable desire for deeper knowledge and wisdom that the mainstream is not teaching.
That's beautiful. And what is it about it that you feel like that's important, and why it should be out there? Like, why should it be in mainstream?
There's a lot of different principles that Billy follows, and all of his supporters, all of the people that he aligns with, that we are raising the consciousness of humans towards that Christ consciousness, and we gotta stop our past programming of war and destruction and what other people call the win-lose matrix. We have to break out of that in order to get to a golden age.
Love that.
I was writing a couple papers in a world mythology class. I got a community college, and like every single person in there, especially the Gilgamesh stuff. I'm excited for the next one. But I'm reading the Sufis Hele version of Gilgamesh, and but I had to do a presentation at the end there. And like everything, oh my gosh, they were like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "This is real.
It's real, man.
It's a story that they're trying to tell you right here."
Yeah.
Oh man, they opened all their minds.
Oh yeah. It's like, what?
And they're like, "Are you a teacher?" I'm like, I'm a student. Come on now.
Well, when you start doing it that way, man, you know the student becomes the teacher. When the teacher is ready, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Absolutely.
And that's what happened. So we're both the student and the teacher.
But let it go. I had tickets for this 2 months ago.
Yeah.
First heard about it.
Yeah.
And I approached about my dad. He said, "I don't think I'm gonna pay it."
I said, "I'm not spending $1,000 to go see a movie." But then my wife said, "You're an idiot. You need to go down there. Anytime your son wants you to come down, you go see your son."
Yeah.
So I came down. And
That's great.
we surprised him Thursday. He didn't even know I was coming.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah, we surprised him Thursday. Can you get a picture with him?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
Well,
Come on. AJ,
You want to go over here?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about stuff. Sit it, right?
Oh, well,
We're gonna make a Billy sandwich.
Yeah. How many miles did you travel?
1,250 miles from Billy Carson.
Wow.
And the truth.
Thank you,
I
man.
love that. Wow.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Together? Sausage?
Nikki.
1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, it looks really good. There you go. Can we do one too?
Yes.
What's up, brothers? What's going on, man? Hey.
Maybe not working. Sign that baby's leg. Sign her like Billy.
Not to sign the baby head though.
I got 6 kids and 5 grandchildren. Oh, there you go. We have 8 kids, so I totally get it. Oh, that's perfect. She's not looking again. Look, she's never looking.
She's sucking that finger.
I know.
Aww.
Appreciate you. Thanks for
Second. Really? Like in the next couple weeks. Literally, we just finished volume 2. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Appreciate the support. What was your
See,
name?
this is not from me, it's from my sister.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotta read it though.
Oh.
What's your sister's name? Or Caleb?
It's from
Yeah. Caleb.
Lisa said I met you with her too. With Caleb and God.
And
NYA.
NYAH. Okay. Yes. Of course. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's it.
Oh. Nice to meet you.
Dr. Zane, blessings. You too.
Yeah. Okay. Let's name what you got. Thank you. Y'all look nice.
Awesome. Hi, Miss Carson. So nice to meet you. I'm Linda Arsenio. I drove in from Dallas. This is really a pleasure to meet you all. Yeah, I love you guys. I hope to see y'all in Egypt.
Let's do a quick selfie.
Okay, yes. Great. Nina, can you hold up the light?
Yes, I can.
Oh, cool. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. One, two, or hit acknowledge.
Here, slow, here. It's much just right. Yeah, okay. Glad to be there. That's on that.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Pleasure to meet y'all.
You too. You too. Where's Roger? Where's Roger?
No, that's not working out.
Okay.
You have to join the Billy Club. So if you want to be in the Billy Club, you got to get your question.
Hey, what's up? It's KG Smooth, better known as Chris from Ready to Love.
I'm Winter Patterson from Ready to Love.
And we are from Houston, Texas, and we are here for the Billy Carson film, Anunnaki Secrets Revealed. I love Billy Carson. Billy Carson was one of the first people when I had my spiritual awakening that I came across on TikTok, and I've just been following his work. It resonated with everything, like literally everything that he says. So I'm excited for the film and everything that's to come. Like let's keep ascending higher.
Nobody can break it down like Billy Carson, and I love everything he puts out. So when I heard that he was coming to Houston, I knew I was going to be here. So, super happy to be here.
Anunnaki, Ancient Secrets Revealed. Let's go, H-Town.
H-Town, baby.
And I couldn't talk about it in the house. That's why I asked about the couples, okay? And we had a problem. Not only we had problems, our problems have problems. And now you want to talk about aliens and UFOs and, doesn't it sound right? Okay, so, I just got to make sure I'm in the camera, okay? Y'all with me on that? And so I used to, just was all excited about talking about aliens and all that. I'm sure a lot of y'all talk to your mates about it, correct?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so it wasn't happening in my house. So at this point, I said, what am I going to do? We was already having issues, and I wasn't going to divorce over it. What we're going to do. But she was going to divorce me over it, right? So I figured I was just going to give up. And I remember having a conversation and saying, I'm not going to talk about this alien stuff. Never again. I'm done. Because, it's bothering my wife. And they would say, happy wife, happy life. That's not true. Happy spouse, happy house. Okay?
I know that's right.
We want to go that route now. All right? So y'all can clap for that. Come on now. Okay. Because, don't get me wrong, because I was going to run for president this year. Woo! Yeah. And I was going to come with the first policy, and I figured that every license that we know out there has a expiration date. Am I correct? But what if I said the marriage license has to expire every 2 years? Would I get somebody to vote? Look, she told me you got my vote. I mean, could you imagine say, hey, you know what, it's 12 o'clock tonight. We don't come to some kind of agreement, we done. And I'm saying this to say that being this conscious community and having someone that you can talk to about the weird stuff is very important. And that's where I'm alluding to. So when I went through my divorce, Clubhouse came out. Y'all remember the app, Clubhouse? All right, so that was where it all begun. I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I figured if I started my little club, I could at least find 30 people, at least 30 people. So I got on there and I started this club called Extraterrestrial Evidence. Well, at this time, Clubhouse was running this Creators First program. Anybody remember that? Where they was trying to find their own creators. 5,000 people applied. They picked 60. I was one of the 60 winners. Then I went on to win the award. So it was like a big contract to do the audio show on the app. So anyway, they gave me a $1,000 budget for my first show. And they said, well, you can do anything you want with it. And so at this point, I said, well, I need somebody that I can talk to about aliens and UFOs. So I ended up getting Billy's number from someone. So I called him out of the blue. He answers the phone. So I tell him who I was, and I gave him my dilemma. And I said, well, you know, all I have is $1,000. You know, if you can be on my show. And you know, if you ever heard him laugh, that John Hammond laugh, like spare no expense laugh. Y'all heard that? Oh, do I need to put this up a little closer? Can y'all hear me anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, so he has that John Hammond laugh, that spare no expense, you know. And so I'm thinking, I'm out of the box. I said, well, I got $1,000. You can, and he just laughed, and I said, shit. Oh, you know, kids in here. I said, well, I guess I don't have enough money. He said, man, I don't want your money. So that's our first conversation. He's like, I don't want your money. I'll help you. I'll do it. So I was like, okay, great. And at this point, he became the headliner in my show. And so at that point, I got to know this man. And what you're witnessing is something I think is quite special. All right, not just in him, but the other person that I'm going to talk about too in a second. And then I'll wind this up for y'all. But at the same time, I had just went through a divorce. And so I figured who would be better to ask about some relationship advice, right? So, you know, we bonded, we met. I said, hey man, well, is it easy to find a woman or somebody that can, you know, grasp what we're doing in this thing? And he did the chuckle again. I'm like, oh, shit. And so he listened to my whole story. And then he says, you know, it is going to be hard, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, this was years ago, by the way. So that means I probably knew before she knew. He said, I think I found the one. So he started describing her on the phone. And he was just telling me all these great things. And I haven't met him yet, right? And I said, well, that's good. He was like, yeah, man, it's just. And so I was like, hey, did you manifest her? Or, you know, did you, you know, how did this go down? You know, he was just like, no, something about it is just a little different on this deal. And so at this point, I ended up having an opportunity to meet Elisabeth. And I have a lot of names that I have reserved for when I meet special people. And she will tell you that every time I text her, Your Highness. That's what I refer her to, right? And I save Your Grace when I meet the one for me. But those are the two names. And it's rare that you will have people that represent all of those things. You know what I mean? And not just in beauty, we're talking mind. You know, she's a very intelligent person. Quite naturally, you all see on one side, but the other side of the fence is about as real as it gets. And if you know Billy and you know her, then y'all really know who's running this stuff around here, okay? I just want y'all to know. So there is the mind, the brain, and the beauties, but then it may be just the opposite in this case. But both of them, they got it going on. So I then say to myself, that I'm very special because I remember the next phone call, and then I'm going to close y'all out with this story. I get a phone call from Billy. He says, hey, I have some things I'm trying to do on my network, and I want you to be a part of it. And he started talking about me doing a 8 TV series or something on the network, and I'm sitting here patting my pockets again because I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. And he says, yeah, it's going to be X amount of dollars. And I'm like, okay, just give me time to come up with the money. And he laughed that laugh again. So I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. Shit, here we go. Oh, sugar, honey, iced tea, if y'all ever hear me say that. So I'm like, all right. He says, man, I'm going to pay you those thousands of dollars. You ain't giving me nothing. And my Scooby-Doo like, you know, and at this point, you know, I had to posture up. I'm like, yeah, if that's in your budget, I could. And they go, budget? We don't have budgets around here, but they do. They do. Everything is business. But I'm just saying, okay, we're going to do this. So my experience, and then now being in 11 different TV shows, you know, I'm on Gaia, Discovery Channel, History Channel. You know, I was featured on Ancient Aliens a few months back last year, Coast to Coast Radio, on Forbidden Knowledge, you know, their documentary, you know, then of course Forbidden Knowledge Network. And then this week, if you're coming down to the Conscious Awards, I will be doing a book signing for my book to be published. So, yeah. And it's going to be a great book. You guys got to see it or read it, The Unspeakable Truth, and so you can't miss it. So without further ado, I'm still kind of perplexed about Terrence Howard talking about 1 times 1. He has a problem with it being 1, right? Am I right?
Yes.
And I thought about it until I started thinking about Billy and Liz. It may be true. Okay? Because when you get two people that are ones and they come together, I think we can change it to be the ones instead of one. That may be what place parents and fucking mess. And that's how I look at them, and I understand. And not that we don't all want those type of partnerships, and I think we all can have. But when you witness it, and you witness it behind the scenes, and you witness the fruit of it all, and then you find yourself in the right place. And I think for me, being in the right place, being around them for the last 4 or 5 years, growing, understanding, looking at life totally different, you know, it's just a wonderful thing to have people like this, especially doing what they do. So what you're about to witness is, again, that spare no expense. I mean, whenever they go everywhere, spare no expense, I'm telling you. Everything's first class. We might have to make a new level in first class, all right? And so I'm just excited about them. You know, you have people like AJ, you have people like Nikki, all these people here, and my lovely person here. Say hello to them.
Hello.
All right, so I'm just saying to y'all, with Nina and the rest of them, it is a beautiful family thing, okay? So without further ado, I want y'all to stand up, get some exercise.
The Conscious Awards. I mean, you know, obviously we have a team of people helping us too, but she's a brainchild behind all of this stuff. So, got to give her props where props are due.
Yeah, yeah.
Woo! Do I have lipstick on this time? The last premiere, I had lipstick on, and it was so funny because the photos that came out from AJ are so crisp. I looked like I was parched. And then one of our assistants ran over and gave me a bottle of water and was like, I think he dehydrated. So, not this time. Roderick, thank you, Roderick, man. I appreciate you. Love you, man. Roderick is the real deal. It's a real cat right there. He's the real deal. I mean, his work is impeccable. He does everything he says he's going to do. And I'm sure his book is going to be an immediate bestseller. Immediate. So, anyway, here we are. All right, we're here to talk about the Anunnaki. Yeah. Right? And I remember when I first started talking about this topic years ago, like you're talking about over 2 decades, really. There was nobody to talk to. I was looking in the mirror and talking to myself. Just to, you know, when I started really digging into ancient civilizations and learning things that I learned before I haven't had an even higher awakening to the information, which didn't happen until around 2010, 11, it was just mind-blowing because hardly anybody had any idea or concept of what was really going on. And by the way, y'all can sit down and relax now, I'm sorry. I'm like, damn, everybody's really standing. Tail fin, cockpit, none of that. And it didn't look like an airplane, it was more like a elongated egg, and it was glowing metal. And after that happened, I talked to two friends. We hid in the bushes. There was these open, empty bushes in Opelika in Miami, where there would be future houses to be built, I guess. So we'd go in these bushes and hide away from the rest of the kids and talk about, did they come from the ocean? Did they come from outer space? Where do these things come from? And so go from hiding in the bushes in 1977 to trading VHS tapes later on, to eventually, with conspiracies and UFO information on them, to trading cassette tapes, then to trading DVDs, CDs, and going into web forums, blogs. Eventually now, of course, getting on TV. And then I'm on probably over 1,000 TV shows, which is like crazy. I mean, I literally turned my TV on one day. I was on the Science Channel, the Travel Channel, the History Channel, the Discovery Channel, and Discovery Plus at the same time. I was like, I came a long way. Well, we came a long way. We came a long way. And so I could see this progression where this information is going from forbidden knowledge to common knowledge. That's where it's headed. That's where it's going. And that's really the ultimate goal. It's not for things to continue to be forbidden, but that it becomes a common knowledge, and these become the common conversations. These are the conversations at the water cooler at your job, and not the other crazy Kardashian conversations. Did you see what Kim had on last night? Nah, man, don't talk to me about that. Let's talk about, this Tahuti. Let's talk about Thoth. Let's talk about the Atlanteans.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some physics and some science, right? Some fractal mathematics. Who got the new book, Fractal Holographic Universe? All right, thank you. I see y'all. Thank you. I signed some, right? So I wanted to be able to continue to teach this information in a way that I think would transcend age, would transcend race, would transcend any type of ideology or dogma, because I'm bringing facts and knowledge. And if something is not an absolute fact, I'm going to bring you a hypothesis backed by circumstantial evidence so that you can say, let me make my own educated decision on this. Some things you might see slightly different than what I see. And guess what? That's okay. It's okay. It's not a problem. But what we do know is predominantly the majority of the information can be seen through the lens of knowledge and transparency going in one direction. At some point in the ancient past, mankind was engaged by beings, according to biblical texts, and even going back further to thousands of years prior to that, by beings that came from outer space or came from the heavens. They came to this planet, they engaged mankind, and they unfortunately didn't do everything good. Some was good, some was bad. I remember Azazel came down in the book of Enoch, and Azazel, the first thing Azazel did was taught us how to make weapons of war and how to kill each other. That was the first thing. Let me show you how to get this ore out of the ground and smote this steel into a blade that can slice a man's head off. That was number one, right? The second thing was how to make this shield that can block a blow from a sword like this. It's like, damn, what are these people up to? And you look into the biblical text, you begin to see all these wars of the gods and these angels fighting with humans. The angels, a key clue to this was that they weren't just winged, flying, mythical beings, was that they were hanging out with us, they were getting drunk with us, they were having sex with us, all right? So what does that sound like? That sounds like people to me. That sounds like people having a good party. Yeah. To the point where they would even go to war with humans. They would put on their war clothes, their outfit, special outfit they would put on to go to war. And they would get their weapons out, and they would actually go to battle, read the book of Deuteronomy. So we're talking about the fact that these beings engaged mankind, but they themselves were people just like us. Flesh and blood people that put their pants on one leg at a time. And even in some cases, instances, you can read of these beings being injured or even killed, which means they had corporeal, mortal bodies They may have been able to live for a very, very long time, according to these texts and tablets, but they themselves can even be killed. In one of the Sumerian tablets, Anu, the head of the gods, or the king of the gods of earth, he was the father, which is why they call him the head of the gods. He got into a battle with Alalu. Alalu was a guy on their home planet who wanted to become king ahead of his potential reign. And then, so what he did was he decided, I'm just going to kill this king and take over. So he killed the king. This is on Nibiru. This is in the ancient tablets. He killed the king, and they didn't like what he did. So he had to escape. So he hopped into his sky ship and forebode, which means he got the hell out of there. And he was chased by a whole bunch of, I guess, their form of military in their sky ships. And he made it through what they call the hammered bracelet. The hammered bracelet, as we know, is the asteroid belt. And back then, at this time, this is how long ago this was, the hammered bracelet was still in a total chaos. In other words, it wasn't in a perfect circular orbit around the sun. Even though the rocks and the stones from this exploded planet named Tiamat orbited our sun, they were moving in a very chaotic pattern. So he utilized that as a way to try to get through to the inner planets. And prior to that, in the text, it talks about other people trying to do that and being crushed or blown up, people that go on missions to try to get to the inner planets around our sun and actually never came back. So it was a big risk for him to do that. So he does that, and they chase him. They chase him through the hammered bracelet, and their ships are destroyed. He makes it through and lands on Earth. And as he lands on Earth, he gets out. He realizes the sun is so bright he needs sunglasses. And so he goes and gets his shades and he puts them on. And then he sees some water and he wants to test the water to see if it was safe for him to drink. And he goes over, when he's at the water, he gets his testing kit out. This is technology. And he tests the water and it was safe for drinking. He also then sees a snake. He had never seen a snake before. He was wondering what kind of animal it was. So was it the guardian of this lake or this water? All these different things are going on. This is his first experience. The next thing he does is once he tests the water, he tests the area, he realizes there's gold in this land and other resources that they can use. He actually goes back to his ship and opens up his crystal tablet. That sounds a lot like our cell phones. Or a tablet of some type, right? Or iPad or whatever. And he connects the tablet to his communications device, and he transmits information back to his home planet. Hey, I found resources, I found drinkable water, I got through the hammer bracelet, and I know the path to get through. If you guys give me a reprieve, in other words, don't kill me, I'll share these resources with you. I'll show you how to get here, and I'll help you gather these resources. And so an agreement was made, and they didn't kill him at that time. But later on, he ends up challenging Anu because he still wants to be a king. And they had a ritual where it was hand-to-hand combat. And so now they're in hand-to-hand combat, naked, because their ritual was we got to strip all the way down to you're naked and literally go hand-to-hand combat, which is kind of strange, but this is what these people do. But while he got beat down by Anu, and when he was on his knees, instead of tapping out, he decided to bite off the manhood of Anu and swallow it, which he did. Yeah. So the point I'm making is because they're always calling in the Sumerian tablets, they're always calling Anu a god, a creator. He's done this, he's done that. They created a lot of stuff because they knew how to create. They had the high level of spiritual knowledge and technological capabilities, and you combine the two, you can make anything look like magic. However, he couldn't stop his thing from getting bitten off. So again, we're talking about people, flesh and blood people. Now, what happened to Alalu? Well, they said, you know what, you gotta die now. So they took him and banished him to Mars, and they built this giant temple that looks like a giant face on Mars, which was picked up by one of our satellites back in the late 1970s when it flew by Mars, the face on Mars at Cydonia. They put him in there and they buried him there. That's where he died. So he died. So these people die. They live and they die, even though they live for thousands and thousands of years. Like I did that whole video on the Sumerian kings list, where it talks about the ages, not the ages, it talks about the ruling years of some of these kings, right? These kings ruled for 28,800 years, 14,400 years. I mean, just crazy. 36,000 years. One king ruled for 36,000 years. The numbers are insane. And you're thinking, if they ruled that long, how long did they actually live? And so when you look at modern science, you go, is it possible that any of this can actually happen? Well, they discovered that in human beings, chromosome number 2 was taken out, it was fused together, and telomere caps were put on each end. This is in modern basic science now. It's like common knowledge, right? It's called an artificial mutation. And so this artificial mutation is estimated to be done around 200,000 years ago, around the same time that these beings showed up, according to the ancient tablets, and began to tinker with mankind. They didn't create us, they genetically modified us. We were already here. In the tablets, they clearly state in the Epic of Atrahasis and in the Enuma Elish that there were beings here, the existing being, they call it, the existing being. And if we add our essence to it, we can get it to bear the load. Prior to them tinkering with us, they were doing all the work. They were doing the, cleaning out the Tigris and Euphrates River. They were creating canals, building cities. They were laboring. They were mining for resources, not just gold, but many other resources. And they weren't mining for gold because they thought that they could make a lot of jewelry and make money on jewelry. That wasn't the purpose for the gold. I don't really particularly believe in Zecharia Sitchin's interpretation that they were using it to fix their atmosphere, although it could do that. I just never found that particular text. But what you could use gold for is technology. So it makes sense that the oldest gold mine discovered on Earth is 200,000 years old, around the same exact time that they claim to have genetically modified the existing hominid, which would have been our cousin, and turned us into Homo sapien. Okay? And the purpose for that was a couple things. Disconnect some of our DNA so that we're not functioning from our higher selves. We're not in tune with our higher selves. You see, our ancestors were more advanced than us spiritually. They were much more advanced than us spiritually. They had the capability to tap into their magnetite crystals in their brains. Every single one of us has billions of magnetite crystals inside of our brains. And our pineal gland is also crystal. What happens when you put pressure on a crystal or a magnetic field in a crystal? It reorients. If you put pressure on a crystal, you get a spark of energy, and it will orient to the energy, to the pressure. If you have a magnetic field, which they took a person, put him in a laboratory setting, and put a bar magnet, a huge bar magnet, and moved it around the room, and tracked the magnetite crystals in his brain, they discovered that his brain was orienting to the magnetite crystals. So what does that tell you? I believe that they had the ability to navigate via the magnetic field. They had a higher connection with their pineal gland, third eye, to their spiritual antenna, to send and receive information spiritually. And I think that a lot of that was taken away from us, or reduced or minimized in a way where we can't even detect the magnetic field. When there's a major catastrophe that's going to happen, an earthquake, when there's a tsunami coming inland, they've tracked this. The wild animals, not the pets, but the wild animals, nowhere to be seen. Sometimes 2 days before the disaster even happens, they're gone. The birds are all gone. No wild animals are found dead in these things. What is that? They have a higher connection that we used to be privy to. Human beings, we stand there with a selfie mode on. Look at this giant wave coming in. I wonder what's going to happen to us. And then they get swept away. Remember that happened in the Philippines? They just stood there with the selfie cameras on, and they got killed. So what I'm saying is our ancestors, to me, were more connected to the earth, more connected to the magnetic field, higher level spirituality, larger skulls, because we found the skulls, larger pineal glands. And this version of us has the capability of still tapping into all of that, but they have poisoned us with toxins, poisoned our food, and reprogrammed us in the way that they wanted, and they got us running off with these program codes now. Have some type of impact on my life and my family. It's not going to happen. I'm a realist. I remember, unfortunately, yesterday, something happened to Trump. He got shot. Whatever the conspiracy is on it, I have no idea. I was on an airplane, and some people were contacting me like crazy. What do you think is going to happen? I said, hey, I don't really care what's going to happen. I don't want anybody to get hurt or shot. At the same time, I'm not worried about who's going to be the president. I'm already making plans for what I'm going to do as president. Because I renew my presidency every 4 years. I don't care who's in the office. I don't care who's quote unquote the ruler. I don't care what. You can do things that other people just can't do. If you know about them, it's garbage. There's no way you can tell me I'm dark because right? It's called Kemet first. He sees the temples coming up out of the mud. He descends from the sky to the ground. Then what does he do? He opens the doors. He comes out with his crew. And the people come to attack him. He raises his staff and sends out a ray of vibration. That ray of vibration actually stops them, like he says, like the stone of the mountain. So he freezes them in their tracks with a non-lethal weapon. And then after he does that, he releases them and they grovel at his feet. And he says, stand up, I'm not a god, I'm a son of Atlantis. And we're here to bring you back up to a high level of civilization. So what's he talking about? This was already a high level civilization before the flood. That could have been a younger Dryas incident, could have been many things that created this global flood at the time. But he rebuilds that civilization. The key point here is this. He tells his crew, now that we did this, spread out around the planet and duplicate what we did here. This is where his crew, who we know the crew were multiracial people from different star systems. Then they go out and they go around the planet and they're building Atlantis. Atlantis wasn't just one ring city. Atlantis was a global civilization. I think it was even interplanetary. But they're building. Now, I go out, I got my little touch I'm going to put on Mesoamerica based on Thoth's blueprint, but I'm going to build it with a little tiny different style and flair to it. Still going to be the same exact thing, same purposes, right? Going to raise the people up, going to teach them. Now, these are my people that I'm ruling over. I'm going to put a genetic marker on them. And I came up with the hypothesis because when you have a farm, you have cows, you brand your cow. Why? If the cow wanders off, oh, that's Farmer Jim's cow. Send it back on down to Farmer Jim. And these people were ruling over people and resources, and they took it very seriously. So the people that ruled over the region that my ancestors came from, they were dark. The people that ruled over a different area where somebody maybe Caucasian came from, they were light, they were white. There was evidence of tall whites with red hair and fiery blue eyes and all this stuff. So the point I'm making here is these beings weren't just black, they weren't just white, they weren't just Asian, they weren't just indigenous, they were many different colors. And it's important because you have this big fight, this big battle going on. Oh, they were all black, oh, they were all white, oh, they were all, Mexican. I'm like, the guy said that and I said, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as a Mexican. I said they're Mayans or Aztecs. They're only Mexican because the Spaniards came in and raped them, unfortunately.
Some time later.
Was it like how did that happen for you?
Good question. He said, what caused me to have my second awakening? Because I was already awake early on, right? I started reading the encyclopedias as a young kid. This is back in the 70s. Google didn't exist, and computers, cell phones, and beepers, none of that stuff existed yet. 4 channels on TV, 1 channel, you could barely see it because it was so fuzzy, it was on a VHF channel. But that was my beginning going into aerospace technology because I saw a UFO in my backyard. That was the reason why got me into all this, 1977. Around 2010, I had a second experience where, like some of you heard me talk about this before, where I had an experience in my house just looking at TV after a long day's work on a big project, and what I can only describe as what people call gray aliens were there in the house. They just appeared. I thought that it was my kids playing a trick on me. When I looked over my left shoulder to look upstairs, the boys weren't there. That's where they would be, upstairs in that area. They weren't there. And everything in the room turned lavender. The TV shut down. It didn't even shut down, like, boom, until it went down. It was like this weird noise. And that's it. I was so pissed off because I thought they were really messing with me. But when I turned back around, there were these 2 beings there. And they kind of look like what you see on TV. The eyes, I don't think are really eyes. I think they're more like goggles. I don't think their eyes, or some type of covering. It didn't look real, maybe it looked artificial, that's what I'm trying to say. But slits for a mouth, slits for ears, little tiny dangly fingers. And whatever they were doing to me was just making my brain shake inside of my skull. They didn't speak any words that I could understand. I didn't have any great telecommunication from them. But they turned around and they dangled. The way I say dangled because they don't walk like us, they kind of bounce out. They went through the wall, and the lights came back on, the TV came back on, and I ran around the house, and everybody thought I was a complete nutcase. Wow. It was a big problem. But the thing that I got out of it was this word, this phrase that was in my head, worldwide telescope. And it just kept saying it over and over and over, thousands of times. So I finally get up and I go to my computer and I turn it on and I go to excite.com because at that time, Google wasn't the main one yet. So I go to excite.com and I type in worldwide telescope. And the first search result was worldwidetelescope.org. And I almost fell out of my seat. And if you Google the age of, or not Google, but look up the age of that domain, you'll find out I'm accurate to that date that it existed at that time. And at that time, you had to download software and install it on your computer to run it. Now, because of HTML5, you can just run it right from your browser, or you can still install the software. But I installed it, I opened it up, and it gives you access to all the space probe data from every mission we've ever sent into space. And so the first thing that I saw was Mars, and I said, oh, Mars, okay. I clicked on Mars, and okay, whatever. What's next? Mars panoramas. I clicked on Mars panoramas. Okay, rovers, okay. And it took me into Opportunity Rover. So I go, Opportunity Rover, go in there. And when I go into Opportunity Rover, it's like you're looking from the perspective of the rover that's on Mars. You can zoom in, zoom out, pan left and right. It's incredible. You can still do it till this very day. I've actually done a whole live workshop utilizing the Worldwide Telescope, showing people, I'm gonna take you to Mars. It's one of my workshops. Anyway, so as I'm looking around, I start seeing anomalies, things that shouldn't be there. They're not with the rocks and the dirt. And these look like similar stones that I would see in Peru or in Egypt or other locations. So I said, wait a minute. Could these be remnants of ancient civilizations on Mars? And that led me down another rabbit hole, digging deeper into the Sumerian tablets, where I discovered they had these beings called the EGG. And the EGG beings that did a lot of the labor and work claimed to have been working on Mars. And I was like, wow, and the reason why they wanted to go to war against Enki and Lil and Anu was because they were doing so much work on Mars and the conditions were harsh and they couldn't get a break. They wanted to take some time off. And they wanted women too, by the way, so they said they wanted women. So because of this, they started a war. They almost started a war in South Africa at a place called Adam's Calendar, where I said earlier, they ironically found the very first man-run gold mine. And on top of the hill over that gold mine at Adam's Calendar, there's a worn-down structure which matches the same structure talked about in the Epic of Atrahasis, where they were that night. And these EGG people came to go to battle against the gods of earth. So these are the gods, these are the sons of God that fell from heaven to earth and tried to go against God. And then they made an agreement that, okay, to avoid this war, and he comes out and says, I have an idea. To avoid this war, there's an existing being on this planet. We can add our essence to it and get it to bear the load of mankind. And so they slaughtered a god in their name, and you see they took the DNA basically, and they created this clone of a hominid that was here. And it was successful, and they began to make more and more of these clones. But that's what triggered it, was that whole situation that I had at my house. Why me? Why that information? Right. But it drove me to a 10x level into this information, like you wouldn't believe, because the randomness of that phrase being linking me to ancient civilizations on Mars, and it took me down a rabbit hole that I'll never come back from, and that's literally one of the largest catalysts to be who I am today. So I guess that's what I could take out of that situation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First, I just want to say, you said a lot of things. You talk about the worship gene. You talk about looking outwardly versus working inwardly. You talk about the many different things about the Anunnaki. But I just want to say that for confirmation, just me being here today, I was spiritually led to you. I had a spiritual experience next day. You're all over my YouTube feed, never seen you a day in my life.
Wow.
And so something brought me here, and so it's opened up Pandora's box after that day. This happened January 29th. But you said the worship gene and outwardly looking, and I wanted to know, you made so many biblical references in your documentary series, and I wanted to know if you knew that in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, it actually says in it's titled Present Weakness, Resurrection Life, how we're wasted away looking outwardly, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. And it says that our Bible is veiled, and that it's veiled to those who are perishing. So everything you're saying is it's in the Bible.
It's in there.
It's in there. It's right there in plain sight. And it's basically saying that there's that hidden veil. And my question is that because you make so many biblical references and you talk about, I've seen a lot of your other videos, and you talk about how Enoch is actually spoken about, through the Anunnaki, like the different epics of Gilgamesh and the different texts you've read. If you think there's any correlation between the Anunnaki and the Essenes.
Yeah, good question. That's a lot of information, but thank you I appreciate you having the courage to stand up and talk about that. Yeah.
That was
and
a good
just to reiterate before I get to the answer of that, the Bible, the reason why I quote a lot from the Bible is because a lot of the Bible is coming from ancient tablets and texts. And a lot of the information in there, actually there's good information. I've said this before in my video. There's good information in the biblical text. You just have to have discernment on what's good and what's actually been remixed. There's a lot of remixed information, and the Corinthians 4 that she's talking about, it says exactly that. And it's another one of those verses that really kind of never got the remix. If they would have known the power in that, they probably would have, changed it around just a little bit. But the Anunnaki are linked to many different races. The Essenes, the Chaldeans, they're linked to the Canaanites. And this link there's some offspring, they call them in Greek demigods. They have this half human, half Anunnaki being, for example, but in Greece they call them demigods, half human, half alien, or what you want to call half pantheon god. The original pantheon comes out of Samaria. But when you look at the text, you begin to realize that they began to create these lineages, and they would seed themselves within these lineages all around the earth and through these different groups. And why? It's because they wanted to have what they said would be this like liaison between them and the rest of those groups of people. Enoch was one of those kind of people. Also, Noah, who's actually known as Zizra, or Uznapishtim, he's half human, half Anunnaki. All right, so that's why he was saved, by the way. But then, so he has his whole bloodline that goes out now. So there's this connection to all of these different groups with these beings. It's like they always have an influence or an influencer within those groups, and some of their genetic material, or more of genetics, and more than most within those groups. Yes. Question that comes to you real quick. Sorry.
So I know that UFOs have been around forever, and we know some things can be manipulated, but lately there's been more sightings than ever. Do you think that's because we've reached a higher level of consciousness, or do you think we're getting more visitations, or what are your thoughts on that?
Good question. Are we getting more visitations? UFO information is coming out like crazy. UFOs being seen everywhere. They're popping up left and right. Everybody's videotaping them. I believe that things are just becoming more obvious because of our technology.
Okay.
That the technology is exposing more and more and more. And because of our technology, what they realize is we have to take control of the narratives. Now we're going to rename them, call them UAPs. Some are theirs, and some are not theirs. Some are ours, and some are not ours. You know what I'm saying? So it's a combination of the two. But by taking control of their narrative, knowing that we ourselves can now access, giant satellite dishes, like when we had Arecibo, we can begin to watch the skies in different wavelengths and find things for ourselves. We can launch our own missions into space now in low orbiting satellites. We can launch those. Students are launching those at universities now. So all of a sudden they're saying, they're gonna find out eventually what's going on. So we gotta take control of the narrative. We're gonna take control. We're gonna start dripping it out, saying, yes, there's something going on. We're not quite sure exactly what it is, but these things are out there so that they can control the narrative on those. But yeah, it's because of our technology. It's just getting better. I have a S24 Samsung phone that you can see the craters on the moon with that thing.